This podcast is not called Make Calcutta Great Again, right? It's called Make Calcutta Relevant Again, because I genuinely believe Calcutta is great. It's a great city. It has its own pace. It has its own way of doing things. If it was, somebody said it very beautifully on this podcast itself once, said Calcutta is like that lover that you have to peel many layers to get to it, and to peel every layer you have to love her a lot. How do musicians learn?
I think we learn 90% by listening. The interesting thing that happened in the house was I started taking the same thing, the same discipline, the same curriculum of tabla and placed it just Control C and Control V on the drums.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know.
God damn it. Welcome to another episode of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. And this is a very special episode because this was not very well planned. Well, with Make Calcutta Relevant Again, I guess.
I don't think we need to plan.
I don't think we need to plan.
No.
And
We'll just go.
this episode brings together two very special people from very different times of my life, if I have to put it that way. So Sambit, I have grown up with. And it's been a little bit too long that we've known each other at this point.
It might get uncomfortable, but we've done it well.
But we've done it well.
We've done it well.
On that. So this is Sambit Chatterjee, ladies and gentlemen, one of the finest drummers in our country, and more importantly, my brother. The reason why I got into music, I say this very proudly, Sambit, that I don't think I would have ever been into anything to do with music if it hadn't been for you. The fact that Blooper House exists, the fact that Top Cat exists, all of this is offshoots of random conversations with Sambit Chatterjee.
Yeah. And actually visiting it, because I remember visiting Blooper when it was nothing.
Yeah.
And deciding this room is going to be this is going to be that.
Well, we just had the shell.
Yeah. That's
we
it.
should have a recording studio.
We should have a vocal booth. We should have another room. Yeah.
Dedicated to independent music.
But
in this
we've
city.
taken. Thank you for that. But I have we wouldn't have been able to sustain if it wasn't for all the guitars that you provided throughout the school life. We used to take his guitar, man, and practice, and your lunch.
My lunch.
Yeah.
So
Lunch was
basically the reason why we are still friends is because I bribed them with my. I didn't bribe them. They stole. He used to steal my lunch.
Yeah, okay.
He used to steal my lunch
So
all the
lunch
time.
is an issue. We'll stay clear of that.
Stay clear of
We're having dinner today.
Oh, yeah, only dinner tonight.
Unresolved.
So unresolved traumas.
I think let's move to Nikki.
And so basically the point we were talking about that is because he's one of my oldest friends and still long-lasting friends that we've had. I think at this point, they say that if you've spent 7 years with somebody, you're going to be inseparable. I think we spent 3 times as much time around each other, so there is no way we're going to death with this friendship.
Going to death.
And on the other side here, we have Nikki. Nikki is one of my newer friends. And Nikki, I have met only about 6 months ago.
Something like that.
Something like that. But then you meet some people and then they become a big part of your lives without even realizing. And Nikki has been one of those people. And the thing that connects both of them together here today, Nikki from Sweden and Sambit from Calcutta, is their love for drums. And Nikki's been playing drums for twice as long as Sambit has been alive. But
that's scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not saying I'm not an ageist. I'm not saying that Nikki is an old person.
No.
But you're saying it.
That's an equation that sort of comes to mind when, yeah, okay.
But I also had a similar feeling when I met him. It didn't feel like I'm meeting someone for the first time. We met, we instantly started speaking even before we started drumming, and we just kept talking, and then we figured there is, he's been living a parallel universe life exactly as mine, as I was living as a child. I think he'll be able to, brief a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well...
So what is this parallel universe? Let's start with that.
Yeah,
what is
let's
this
talk about
parallel
that.
universe life that we're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get into it, but we sort of found out pretty quickly that we both have famous fathers, first of all.
Okay.
Musician fathers.
Okay.
Rhythmical such people, especially in your case, but also in mine. And we were sort of born into this in a sense, and we got exposed to other musicians living on top of us, literally, in our houses, eating breakfast with us, talking about music, living music, playing music.
And older people, right? People from
Older people,
the older generation.
like our fathers,
Yeah, he's
colleagues
had some
and friends.
big names around.
Yeah.
He's been living around some really big names.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I know some of these names, but we don't have to name drop on the
No,
podcast.
we don't. But let's suffice to say that there were insane jazz legends in my case. I didn't even know that they were that, and you, as I told you, you don't know that when you're 4 or 5 years old, that the gigantic black person eating breakfast with you is a jazz legend. You don't have that framework of the world yet. It's not, your brain isn't developed enough to understand that.
He's talking about Quincy Jones. Sorry, I had to do
Yes.
But it's insane to think
incredible.
that Quincy Jones was having breakfast in the room next to you. Like, this is...
I'm getting bumps right now.
And I think that experience that binds the both of you, which is something I do often. I think I'm I was made to make people collaborate. Mm-hmm. This is what
this is your superpower.
This is my superpower. Just like out of nowhere, I get people to go into a room together and figure stuff out.
Do stuff.
And I knew you guys would get along together.
Yeah.
And without even realizing that you would have this other insane connection with your fathers around growing up with, larger than life figures around yourselves. The way he had jazz legends in his house, but you had Indian classical legends.
Yeah, wonderful people. I've had Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, who used to park his car in my house, and my grandfather, my great grandfather, in fact, traded this thing where he said that, see, I'll not take rent from you. I can't take money from you, but if you can perform once a month at our mandir, we have a mandir in the house where we do Durga Puja, like a small temple, and we do Durga Puja over there. And he said, once, that's it. There's nothing else that we want from you. And I've met Ustad Zakir Hussain at, I think when I was 4 years old, and I saw him play, and I was like, man, this is it. And even though that I didn't realize who they were, I had no clue, but there was always this feeling that, I want to do this. I want to be in this vibe. I want to be around this vibe. I want to be playing. I want to be entertaining. I want to learn what it feels like to play this music, to play music in general. And it's just, I think it's an otherworldly feeling. And as you said, as a kid, you don't know. I had that aim that one day I'll play with Ustad Zakir Hussain, though that's one dream that'll never come true. We've lost the greatest sun in our solar system, but the light is still on, and maybe we are the light, who knows. But
you did get to meet him on multiple occasions.
I
got still remember the first time that
touch him.
Yeah, you got to touch him, and there was a very
smell him.
Beautiful.
Yeah. In all the right and wrong ways, I've had the opportunity of playing under him as well. But I mean, all of that. I mean, if I say very blatantly, Meghdut, and very honestly, I was scheming my way, doing everything possible in my life just to reach that point. But let's come back
very similar. And when we met, we started speaking into these things that I think we could recognize so much, and that sort of feeling you have as a kid when you just get smitten by this bug or whatever it is, this addiction almost, to feel that again. So you feel that thing in the music, and it's like, okay, I never want to feel any other way. This is what I have to do. How do I do it? Well, I probably do it by playing with really good other musicians. Okay, how do I play with really good other musicians? Well, I have to be good myself. Okay, so let's be good myself then. That's the logic, at least for me. So I knew at the age of 5 that there was literally nothing else I could even imagine doing for the rest of my life at that point. And that was partly a gift because I was in the same context as you, but also me, because I sort of opened to it. And I saw, obviously, these people, legends, literal legends. Clark Terry is one of the greatest trumpet player ever lived. He was like living for a month in my house and stuff every year. and he was doing magic tricks with eggs, and he knew how to make eggs disappear. And I was like, wow, that was like super cool. And then my dad took me in at night, and he was playing at a big jazz festival in Stockholm, and I got to hear him. And that's the same guy who did the egg thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that sort of made it possible for me to sort of see that, well, if he can do it, and he can be, you know, doing magic trick with eggs, then maybe I can do it. You know, I'm just younger, but that's
So
the
have you learned how
only
to-
difference. I saw that it's a human. He's not some entity from another planet or something.
But now, do you know how to do these magic tricks? with
No, I
eggs?
don't know how to do the magic
Get a
tricks.
pair of eggs.
Yes. Somebody.
Yeah, and I never got to play with him either.
We've always had this thing where even with, so I run a festival here called the Kolkata International Drum Festival.
Right.
My dad's the director. I help him with it. I also sometimes call myself the director when it's needed, when I have to get the work done. But he's the main one, and I'm doing it for him. And from this year, we are dedicating it to Ustad Zakir Hussain, because we wished that one day he'd be here as well. Now he is, you know, he'll be in spirit for every year with us, hopefully. And same thing, I with the. I think it's an incredible, courageous thing to be able to do it. You know, I don't know. I mean, I have some friends. He's been the greatest support. You know, with make Calcutta relevant again. He's been an incredible support always. I mean, I can always count on him. But in general, Calcutta also has been very supportive. You know, which is the same thing. I don't know why I'm doing it. I can't do it alone because I don't have money. But it's the same thing, you know. How do we get to dream big? You know, a little more every day. How do we get to do it? We don't know. We're figuring it out. You know, he's helping me figure it out because there's some things that I don't know about entrepreneurship, about business, about planning, about executing, about marketing. He's an incredible guy with that. You know, as much as he praises me about the music, it's not just music that sells nowadays. You know, it's a part of it. It's not the heart of the whole thing. You know, there's a lot more things to it, and we're learning every day. We're doing it. We'll be able to do this year, hopefully. And it's an impossible dream which we are hoping it'll turn. But same thing as you said, we don't know.
So obviously the thing a lot of people are going to ask is, what is it that relates both of you to Calcutta? With you, it's clear. We know you've grown up in Calcutta. You've made Calcutta's name. Put your Calcutta's name out there. You're doing the KIDF festival to give back to the city. And of course, your relationship with Calcutta is বাংলা যেটাকে বলা হয় ওতপ্রোতভাবে জড়িত
একদম
which is
Calcutta is me and vice versa. I am
Calcutta. No matter how much sometimes we are frustrated with it and this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, at the end of the day, no matter what you do, you're going to keep coming back to this city.
I think we are now responsible to make things happen.
So it is there's no point of putting it on other people anymore. On that.
Nope.
With Nikki, I think it was a very bizarre love affair with the city.
Very, very. I have this extremely bizarre. That's a very good word, actually.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre love affair. I'm falling deeply in love with this chaotic thing,
chaotic
entity that is like I'm part of here.
So what are you doing here, Nikki? We know that you came here once and I was not there, and you were doing the shows.
I was touring. I was touring with the former lead guitar player of the band Europe.
All right.
His name is Key Marcello, and we play the Europe catalog basically because he was part of writing it. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool, amazing. But and also just a coincidence because I was going here to work with helping or teaching kids about compassion and loving kindness in a project we have called Warriors of Love International. And that's actually how we met in the first place this summer. We started talking about, well, you came up to me. I just told him the story. And you said, well, you have, I think you said something like, you have an amazing energy. What do you do?
That's right.
Well, and
It's
I'm
true.
It is true.
yeah,
Energy, spot energies. It's just how it works.
that's amazing.
In general, we are the kind of people who go up to everyone, wherever you are.
Yeah,
and
you
start
always do
talking
that.
to them. I always
Yeah.
do that. That's how you make friends.
So, and I was sitting next to a stage, and I said, well, thank you. And then you said, what do you do? Well, I'm a musician. I'm just going on stage. And I have a super passion for compassion. And then I think pretty much your next question to me was, well, what's your biggest dreams with that? And I said, I had to think, and I said, I want to get it into schools because I didn't get what I know when I was in school. And you said, I think I can help you with that.
With that,
And
nod,
I'm literally
with that
saying this was within the 30 seconds of us meeting, at least never a minute, 40 seconds tops. That sentence came out of that guy's mouth, and I knew that something would happen there. It was so clear to me. And then I pretty much said, we spoke a little more, and then I said, I have to go on stage now. I went on stage, played with this Indian guy, Punu. And the next day I meet you. You come with my colleague, and now they're friends, and they're hugging, and they say, oh, "This guy, hey, he's awesome." So you want to come? Let's go to Calcutta and make this. And I was like, yeah, okay. I still didn't know what the guy did. I didn't know that you were involved in this, or in schools, or in education, or anything. And I still knew, then Pauline was part of that as well, but I still knew that, okay, this is going to happen. I didn't doubt it for a second, not a second. I knew we were going. And now here we are, and we just finished the first whole week of workshops, doing 30 kids, sort of 26 or 27.
But they're not even kids. I mean, kids
They're not
compared
even
to us,
kids,
but
yeah.
they're not even kids.
They're between 18 and 23
18 and 23, and they run various NGOs across the city. And the idea is that if you're able to teach compassion as a superpower to young people who are also in positions of power in their own ways, then they can take that energy and those learnings and spread it to the kids that they serve at the NGOs in mass.
That's great, man.
And the fact that this is happening in Calcutta, we're able to do that. This will help these young people get so much more confident with themselves, understand what their abilities are, what their weaknesses are, how do they work on those things, and basically become superhero versions of themselves. And that's what this Viking and this other Viking are in
And
Calcutta
they will
doing.
inspire more people. So it's a trickle-down effect, right? It just
100%.
becomes
That's the
bigger.
plan, yeah.
Love spread and becomes more when you spread
It's
it.
like a mycelium. It grows on its own, and it sort of positively contagious people all over. So that's the idea.
And that's happening in Calcutta. That's the whole
It is
relationship.
Yeah, but
And-
thanks to you, man. I mean, the same thing that I was telling you. This guy, the reason why I love him as an educator as well, and spreading that. I know this is his interview, but I would go out of my way to say this. I mean, I love the fact that he adapts change gracefully, and he spreads that around people. He would do new things. He jumps to do new things. He supports new things, and that's just incredible. It just doesn't make Calcutta relevant. It just makes you a better person when you adapt change, because I mean you don't have a choice, right? With change, you're never given a choice. Change is happening. If you don't ride it,
If you
you've
don't
lost the
adapt
bus.
to it,
Yeah.
it's too bad for you. It's a
yeah,
you problem.
you've lost the bus,
Yeah.
which is what I think is incredible. And he's doing it in Calcutta. He's been responsible for it. A lot of people look up to him. I mean, which I feel incredibly proud of. We're from the same school, so it speaks volume of our school as well, Birla High School, So yeah, it's just unbelievable how you both are doing such amazing work in Calcutta with the kids. Because I saw day before yesterday when I had come to meet him for the KIDF meeting, I saw how you were dancing and playing with the kids, and they were just filled with
joy,
excitement and joy, and just generally. I think it's just great because these slum kids, a lot of times you see there's so much of information of trauma that comes
Yes.
through generation, you know, and how they learn to build these boundaries around the trauma.
Yes.
And like how we were discussing,
Yeah, we
right?
were discussing,
Like
talking
how
a little into
information passes through generations through your DNA, right? And how they're used to handling the trauma, you know.
It's amazing.
And love is the only worthwhile thing, you know. It's the least thing that you could do for them. So I'm
falling totally in love with them too, obviously. So that's a big part of my love affair with Kolkata, which I think will be infamous in some way, because 10 years from now, I will still be talking about my love affair with Calcutta. And these kids, this class that I've gotten to know for this week are going to be a big part of that love. I've gotten to meet them. They're from the slums. Many of them are first generation education.
Learners,
They haven't been in
schoolgoers.
the system before in their families. And they have the most insane wisdom you could ever ask for. Insane. They summarize stuff much, much better than I am able to, which just is humbling. I give them this concept and they say, oh, do you mean like this? And they summarize it and I go, yeah. So I rest my case and I have to. They're amazing. They're so intelligent on an emotional level that these things that we speak about is like, it's new words to them, but the actual doing, the being love part, they got that pretty much down, I would say, most of them. What we give them are tools, what we give them are techniques. Today, I had this amazing moment where I totally teared up again. I've been crying a lot lately. It's like a
It's all
theme
the
here.
love. It's all the love.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So we had them in groups, and we sort of talked them into understanding how active listening is such a superpower in of itself. You actually are in a superpower position when you're actively listening to someone. It's such a beautiful, not power over them, but power over everything. It just becomes love in the room. So they did that. They spoke in a very sort of amazing way. They shared something and the other listened to them actively. And they said, so what I hear you say is XXY or something. And I see all of this working. I'm working with these kids for 4 days, and now they could be on a board on some cool company or something.
We should maybe make a Warriors of Love company.
Yeah,
Maybe.
there's some amazing. They were like finished. They were like, okay, guys, out and do that. This is compassionate leadership. And then we invited one of the girls came into the center, and the others were told to say, what are you impressed about with this girl? And we did that with all of them. And one of the other people said, well, when she speaks the truth. And when she said that, I just, boom. That was it for me. Tears, and I was like, oh, Tobbe, take over. I couldn't do it. I had to sit down. And it was such a beautiful moment, and I had tons of those this week. So I'm super grateful.
I mean, it started with the Christmas Day where you became Santa for all of these kids.
Yeah.
2,000 kids.
It's a perfect Santa.
Perfect Santa. And went and played music
You
with
just
them.
need a little bit of machit jhol and bhat, and then
But
I
like
think
the tummy, but he's too fit. It's
you'll-
not possible. We'll have to put like a pillow.
I think just
But
give him a
6
month.
months.
Give him a month.
Give him
Give him a month
Give
of
me 6
bhat.
months and a
Yeah.
lot of
6
rice and buttered chicken.
I mean March is here. I don't eat fish, but yeah, you need machit jhol and bhat.
Yeah. Machit jhol
But
is
we
not
also
gonna make you fat.
played, right? I mean, I wanted to speak about that as well. We played.
We did, yeah.
The
we
first
could
time
say
we
that.
met, we played for 2 hours straight, and we
That's
recorded
also
some
in-
of that. You know.
Yeah.
How was that?
I wanted to ask you about that because I think I shared with you that then I had a stepdad who was also a super famous drummer in Sweden. And we had our drum kits standing opposed to each other when I grew up from age of 7. So it's very natural for me to just sit down and just go. But you also had that in a way, I think, with your father, or
not
did
very
you, did you do
similar. So basically, my dad plays the tabla,
that?
and it's not as loud as
It's
drums.
not as loud.
So mostly, what our system was, so I was learning from him,
He was your first guru.
He is my guru.
He is your.
He
Yeah.
is my guru. I don't have another guru.
Yeah.
I mean, you just yeah. So we used to sit for hours. It's called talim, where you sit and you learn a certain form and you play it, and you like I was telling you, you listen
Yeah.
to it. You not always write it down. Writing Indian stuff has been a very recent thing,
Yeah.
but it's not like how we have it in the Western culture, where you write tabs down, you write notifications down. Because when it started, I don't think they could find pen and paper like a few thousand years ago. So you had to remember.
Yeah.
Which is why the brain sound that plays a very important role in the Indian
Storytelling
system.
tradition.
Storytelling,
Yeah.
right? Like, because we are tabla and the bowls are a lot is inspired from what is happening. There are bowls which mimic the sound of the bird, things are happening in the forest.
Right.
Anyway, coming back to my house, he used to teach me, and I would play that, but very honestly, I was not very attracted to the tabla because it was good, but his students were better than me when they were playing. And I'm a very competitive human being, and I had this feeling that, man, they're playing so much better. This is not happening. This is not working out.
And plus, he's your dad, so you're like,
Plus,
oh, no, I
he's
can't
my
even be
dad.
the
I
best.
can't
student
even
of my
be the best in
dad.
this room, and it really bothered at that. Like, same thing, right? Remember what you were saying when you were 7 years old? You don't know how the world works.
No.
You just think everybody else is just working for you. Everybody else. My dad's working for me. My mom's working for me.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually I lost a little bit touch, and then I started playing the drums. So when I started playing drums, he was very supportive of the fact that, okay, this guy's come back to music. And then the interesting thing that happened in the house was I started taking the same thing, the same discipline, the same curriculum of tabla, and placed it just Control C and Control V on the drums. And that's when the real, I think, connection between me and Baba started happening, because he had lost hope. Even my mom had lost hope that this guy's not studying, this guy's not playing, is going to be a complete woof. And I didn't lose hope.
He
'cause
wasn't meant for education. Some people are not meant for formal education.
Depends on what, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Depends on what education is. Like, I was playing a 17/8 Dream Theater song when I couldn't do a normal arithmetic problem.
You couldn't do 17 by 8
couldn't
math.
17 by 8.
Yeah, because that was not, though it's 18.5,
Yeah.
8.5, but I didn't want,
not-
18.5,
Oh, man.
It's 8.5, it's 8.5.
I knew you'd screw up. See, but that's the thing with Shobit. When we were growing up as well, school was a lot of fun for him.
Too much fun.
For all of us, because of him, because he was like this prankster, always like having
man.
a great laugh, and at the expense of everybody. Today he's nice.
Even after that, our colleges didn't have, like, Calcutta does not have a university which teaches music, which, like a registered university. India right now has, I think, a few.
Very few.
Very few.
And
I
there's
think one in
Suvarna
Bombay.
that is-
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
There was Swarnabhumi in the southern part of India. In the eastern, I think there's True School of Music in Bombay, and maybe a few more. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know all of the names, but it's not still at a place where Juilliard is, where
Right,
maybe
right.
Berkeley is, or maybe the Amsterdam Conservatory is,
Or the
It's
London
not-
Conservatory or the
London,
Paris
yeah,
Conservatory.
exactly.
But there's also maybe a reason, and we'll come back to you. But I want to hear that from you as well. Maybe the reason could also be that music before before our generation,
Western music, you mean?
Western
mostly.
music has been, very low in terms of uptake compared to Indian
100%,
music or classical
100%.
music. And classical music, it's something that happens intergenerationally.
Yeah.
So if your father was a classical musician,
Yeah.
then you would have a higher chance of being a classical
Which is
musician.
what happened to him with the Western music for us,
Exactly. But in India, we
Yeah.
did not have Western music in the same way, right? We were too proud about our traditional classical music. So how did it happen for you? How was growing up around these musicians? Did you also have formal music education?
Not really.
No?
Two reasons for that. One, extreme stubbornness on my part.
Okay.
Also, as a young kid, so nobody tells me what to play,
do.
what to do. And the other, similar story again between us, I would say, because I got a lot of leeway. Partly maybe because of my parents, but partly because my world around me realized I do that. So I didn't have to have good grades. I was allowed to play, and people sort of saw me as this wonder kid or something. Well, not or something. I would say that that's actually true. That I was playing when I was 12 for people, and I was playing with people. We have higher education in Stockholm, in Sweden. The academy, it's called, and both my dad, my real dad, and my stepdad were teachers at that academy, and I was playing with their fellow teachers when I was like 13. So
It's incredible.
That was incredible in one way. That's really cool. But the good thing for me was like people in my school knew, so they let me play, and they didn't care if I wasn't there much.
Or you didn't have a degree on music or whatever?
No, I went to a 2-year thing where I learned to read a little bit. But the first thing I told the
But
drum...
you've played with Wolfgang.
Pardon?
You've played with Wolfgang.
Yeah, that's later on, yeah. But I told my drum teacher when I came in there, he said, he was a drum teacher, and I said, okay, so now that's a pretty prestigious school as well. And he said, well, what do you want to learn? And I said, nothing from you.
Oh man,
So cocky, 15 years old.
15 years old? Oh my God.
I blush when I say it.
How did that go down?
No,
when
he
your
was-
father
How was that?
gets
How was that day? How was
He
that
was a
afternoon?
real macho guy.
Yeah.
Very, very strict.
Yeah.
He has a strict reputation also. Very, very tough guy. Big. He just laughed at me. He saw through that, you know.
were just
I mean,
like
what
this kid.
this little kid. So then he looked at the classical, I mean, the sort of Wiener classical instruments, the timpani and the like the xylophone and those kinds of instruments. And he said, do you know anything about them? And I said, no.
Yeah.
Do you want me to teach you some there then? If the drum kit is off limit for you. And I said, yeah. So he took me off guard. He set me at the timpani and he showed me how to play that. And I obviously hadn't even seen timpani before, these big, you know, the tunable drums. So he taught me that for 2 years. And then I practiced my drum kit when he was gone at night. So
But that's a wonderful teacher. He figured out a way to teach you something new.
He was beautiful.
Without actually reprimanding you for being
Exactly, and he could have thrown me out
musician.
because that was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, arrogant. but I don't know if I've projected this, but I think I saw this little smile in his, like.
And you knew you could push him a little bit.
Yeah,
if
but
he was
also
fine.
maybe, I hope this is, again, projection, but I think he saw that someone who says that will probably amount to something.
Yeah.
He probably has, because that's like a do or die drive. And I was willing to throw the whole education away just to tell him off. And that sort of says something about at least the determination on my part.
Yeah. I'd be very curious to know, something that I think for people who don't know what it's like to be in the mind of a musician, how do musicians learn? And I want both of you to answer this in your own way. So for example, and I'll tell you why I'm curious about this. One of my targets here has been, since you've arrived, has been to give you a taste of India through its music. I mean, through other things as well, but definitely music, because you're a musician. So I took him to a few concerts, obviously classical concerts, to get a taste of
Not
that.
any concerts, by the way.
Not any concerts,
No,
I mean...
let's just be honest about that.
So, the concerts I took him to. Took him to a 3-generational Ustad Amjad Ali Khan.
No, but I trust you. Yeah, 100%. I trust your taste.
Of
100%,
course, I took him to
100%.
a concert where Ustad Amjad Ali Khan was performing with his 2 sons and his 2 grandsons for the first time ever.
Yes.
And he got to witness that. And he was sitting on the side
Teared up again.
and he was just sitting there, eyes closed and crying. And I'm like, okay, something's happening. I don't understand. And at some point he opens his eyes and she's like, how are they talking to each other? I don't think I get it. I think I'm trying to get it, but I don't really understand the conversation. What are the cues? What are they doing? So I remember that was a bizarre moment for you.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I knew that they were connecting, but
you didn't understand.
I didn't have the language.
You didn't have the language
Yet.
at all, and you have never experienced music like that in your life.
Not live. I've heard
Not
it.
live. You've heard it, but watching
it's a totally
them,
different thing when
Yeah.
you're in the room.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And with artists of that
Oh,
caliber, it's absolutely
course.
insane legends that you're watching.
Yeah.
and then again you managed to catch this other concert as part of the Biennale.
Couple of days later,
couple
yeah.
of days after that, where there was Rakesh Chaurasia playing the Masuri.
Yes.
And along
Tanmay Kaku was playing.
Tanmay Kaku was not playing.
Oh.
I think, but somebody was playing the khol, the Mridangam.
Oh,
khol.
this was another gig, not the Victoria Memorial.
This was not Victoria. This was at the Indian Museum.
Okay.
As part of the Biennale, the closing of the Biennale. Okay. And that day you told me something different. That day you said, I think I get it. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I mean, so I never asked you, I just realized I never asked you how you managed to get it. So explain this also for my curiosity.
Even mine, I would love to.
Yeah.
And for those who are watching, who might not really know that much about
Yeah.
how musicians think, what changed?
Right. So I think we can figure this out together a little
Okay.
bit, because I'm not going to do this as a monologue or answer. I'd like to figure it out together.
Okay.
So for me, we'll have that as an example. This is a new language, but it's rhythmical to a large extent, and it's melodical. I've trained my brain since birth to detect these things. My brain is like a highway when it comes to learning music. I learn super fast, and my brain is just wired that way, because I've been thinking about this breakfast, noon, and dinner, sleeping on it 24/7 since I was 3. So this is what my brain does good.
Okay.
It does other things really badly. My ex-girlfriends will tell you. But it does this very well. So coming into the room, having these people conversating with such a great distance as the first gig.
Yeah, just to explain.
They were sitting
both the
really, really
percussionists
far
were on
apart.
two sides of the stage.
Yeah.
And of course, Ustadji was seated right in the middle. And they were not always even looking at each other. You can't look at two people at the same time anyway.
Unless you're very, yeah. So for me, it's obvious that they're using cues and they're using language, and they have they're speaking in sentences that they both can understand, even though they're obviously improvising a ton. But there are sort of cues. And then I was fighting to find them, because you need to find the key words, the rhythmical patterns or whatever it is that stand out, the word that you can, that's the word again.
Okay, so it's a
So
sentence,
that's
you
it.
understand there are sentences, but you're trying to grasp each word when it comes.
A little bit like that.
Okay.
And I think you will agree with this, that you, having also explored a lot of so-called Western music and jazz and all of the different genres, we also have cues and words. And if you don't know them the first time, it's really, really hard to improvise with jazz musicians if you don't know these
100%.
few words and songs and what it is. But it's pretty easy if you're eloquent in language, in musical language, if you know what you're doing when you're speaking. It's really just about learning these few words, and even though you have a thick accent, you're still speaking to someone in French.
Even if you're Irish.
Yeah. And they obviously hear that if I'm speaking to someone in French and I don't know French, they hear that but they know that I'm trying. And they also know that I got the few words down to make me somewhat intelligible, and then they can invite me. And that's the thing that happened to me the second time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, I got the words, a few of them, and that's the word again, and then that happens, and okay. And then he sings that and he mimics that. And then that comes in, and then they do it together. And you start boom, 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 and now I got a language. I wouldn't say that I could come up and play with them flawlessly at all, but I do think that after that concert would have been able to sit with them, and we would have found something. And coming back to what we did.
No, I was going to ask you one thing. So
Yeah.
the jam that you did with Unmesh and Arnab was after the
No, that was before.
That was before.
Before the concert, because when I heard the audio that day after we jammed, so we played, we met, we spoke for I think an hour, and then we started playing immediately, which is what I wanted to also come to. The two parallel points that I want to reach to is, one thing is when we started playing, we didn't know what we were going to play.
No.
Because there was no discussion whatsoever, right?
No.
But somehow, because of the commonality in the instrument, we understood the language.
100%.
You understood the language that we communicated for a while, right? The first jam, which was not recorded, we played a little bit. I mean, it was almost like, hey, what's up? Where are you from? What do you do?
100%.
What do you eat? What are your preferences? What do you want me to call
Yeah.
you? He.
And I
them,
like
they.
I like eggs in the morning.
You like eggs in the
Do you
morning?
too? No, I'm more into like
I'm more
yeah.
into parathas, you know. And so we did that a little bit. And
Yeah.
the second jam that we played, it was like we were playing one song.
Yeah.
Because I would want to put that in the video, that one part that we played. It just sounded like we were playing one single song,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And now the same thing that I was going to ask was when I heard, after I went into
Yeah.
the room, control room, and heard you play with the other musicians, I could hear there's a little bit of a sync in your playing with the tabla player. Because there was something that you were doing, which was, because we have a very cyclical system in the Indian
Yes.
system. We need to come to the sum, the one that we call, the one, the sum. It's a huge thing in the Indian system. Whatever you play, you need to come to the sum, which is the first beat. You need to come back.
So
And
can you
were-
Right,
explain
right.
that in a beat?
so
like
in
how,
dha, din, da, na, din, da, din, da. So this dha coming back, which is like a 16-beat cycle, and coming
Right.
back to the sum, you were doing it. I could hear it. I wish if they can put one of the jams in the video once I'm
Right.
saying it, it'll make sense, because for the people watching, it'll really make sense, because I thought you had seen these concerts and you were trying to bring that, conversation. And
Super
but
interesting.
you did that without even
Yes,
realizing.
but
which
that
means you knew the language a little bit of it.
I think I could may perhaps come close to something with an analogy. So when I played with them, they were speaking Bengal, and I was speaking English. But I still can phonetically hear stuff
exactly.
that I can mimic. When I've been to the concert, I sort of understood a little bit more of Bengal.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So when I played with them, I could still hear the rhythm and coming back to the
one.
to the sort of
See the cycle happening.
the cycle, absolutely, but more from like a non-understanding phonetical way. Still,
Yeah.
it's more me mimicking with no depth of understanding
100%.
underneath.
I think it's just time.
Do you understand what I
The
mean?
same thing that he said.
Yes, and
we
that's why I
started-
want to sit with people like you, because then I get the depth of understanding. When you just did what you did, now I will have a totally different approach to the same rhythm that you just showed us.
I think the same thing. I would come back to what he asked. How do musicians learn? I think we learn 90% by listening, and by being acquainted with a certain sound. Like the same thing that you had in the classical concert, I had the same thing when I heard heavy metal for the first time. I didn't know what was happening. Luckily, my dad was like, sounds interesting.
Right.
But
Thank God.
Thank a lot of people
Yeah,
like
a lot of
just
people would be like,
go,
what is this?
They get repulsed,
Yeah.
which is true, because
Yeah.
it's heavy metal. People are growling. There's a lot of blast beat that's happening, which is a very I've like one of my favorite bands is from Sweden, Meshuggah.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And
Yeah.
it was one of the first bands that I had heard, and it was a complete.
Yeah,
for
what
me,
is this?
right?
Yeah.
But I gave it a second listen. I gave it a third. I gave it a fourth.
Exactly.
And then eventually I loved Linkin Park.
And that's how we became friends.
which is a very similar sound. Like it's metal, right? It's a little
Yeah.
more mellowed. But that
More
was a
palatable.
pathway drug for me to reach my sound, which I love, which is it's my system. Which is, I think, was happening to you as well. You spent enough time in India, which is why you're listening. You're constantly, there's a lot of, even, I mean,
It's
there's
subconscious a lot of it.
subconscious is like
Yeah, for sure.
involuntary information that's entering
Absolutely.
you. And which is what you were saying in it. I remember we had this discussion that we need to do a gig where there's a double drum setup and there
Yes.
are musicians.
That would be so cool. Though.
Yeah, we
I
need
think
to do
that'll
that.
be it's a good ending note as well, for the podcast, where we have to do this, where we get a double drum setup. We get some musicians. He wants to jam with some Indian musicians. I want to get like a bassist, like a huge fusion band with two
That would
drums,
be awesome.
you know, at the helm of it.
Yeah.
No, what a great conversation.
Beautiful.
I think
So
we've
much.
had.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
my friend.
No, thank you guys.
brother.
Awesome. This has been such a pleasure having
Yes.
both of you on the Make Calcutta Relevant Again podcast. This podcast is not called Make Calcutta Great Again, right? It's called Make Calcutta Relevant Again because I genuinely believe Calcutta is great. It's a great city. It has its own pace. It has its own way of doing things. If it was, somebody said it very beautifully on this podcast itself once, said Calcutta is like that lover that you have to peel many layers to get to it, and to peel every layer you have to love her a lot. You know, like
That's worth it. It's worth it.
It's
It's worth it.
worth it. It's true. And when she reveals herself to you, you're knee deep in love. You're like, okay, I cannot leave this lover behind, and somehow you keep coming back to her. You keep coming back.
It's like
to
honey. It's
Yeah.
sticky and it's lovely.
Yeah, it's so and
It's sticky,
And
but
sweet.
it's lovely. It's sweet and it's sticky, but it's lovely.
But somehow
right?
we do need to get better at adapting in this
Yeah.
city. So then coming back to your famous last words before we say bye-bye.
Okay, no, I'll go back to the sort of learning and music thing, and I talk about music as dialects. So there's language and then there's dialects, and I think that what we've spoken about and spoken into today has to do with that. So even if you have a thick accent in your dialect, that could also be interesting. You know, but you do have to have some sort of knowledge about the language. And
100%.
Quincy, rest his soul, bless his soul, used to say many things, and not only in my sort of context, but he's famous for saying some things. And one of them is, you can learn from all kinds of music, everything, even polka. And that is sort of his attitude to music was really amazing in that way. I think he was like, you can learn from anything. Just go and play with a polka band if you have to. You will learn something, and you can use that in whatever context you are. And I think your musicality and this discussion in general has been a proof of that.
No, same for you. His friendship, your openness, and accepting to do this. I think we see are equally grateful to each other. I think that's where we are.
Exactly, and we take some of these lessons from the world of music, these dialects, these languages, and we extrapolate them into our lives, no matter what we do, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an engineer, lawyer, artist. I think accept all differences and learn from them, and hopefully with a little bit of adapting ASAP, we shall make Calcutta relevant again. Until next time, folks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know.